This is Nightwish Noise, the official music video. That looked good. I think we got that. Doesn't look too bad. I fixed one of the glitches, but this is Nightwish Noise, the official music video. Now, we've had two separate ones requested for this. We've had the live, I think somebody requested the live, but also we've had the official music video. I'm not 100% sure if that's true. I know with Nightwish we've had a lot requested from them, but I think there's been two versions of this requested. We've done neither, so we're starting with the official music video. If y'all are ready, I'm ready. Right there, I'll scoot back just about a second or two. There we go. Yeah, interesting video. It starts off pretty dark, doesn't it? We start off with, what was that, child sacrifice? Can I say that on YouTube? I don't know if I can say that on YouTube. Get banned just by mentioning it. Man, Nightwish. See, y'all bring a lot of live Nightwish songs to me, and I'm just like, yeah, watching, you know, Floor do the windmill, and now we're getting into some of their official videos, and this is, I like to say, going hard in the paint quite a bit, and I don't know if y'all get that reference. It's a basketball reference, and it's a reference to people who down by the goal are a little bit, you know, elbows to the jaw, you know. And I'm not a huge basketball fan, but a friend of mine said that to me years and years ago when we were in middle school. He said, I go hard in the paint. And he said it seriously. He was like trying to describe himself. And as a joke for years, I've always said, you know, well, he goes hard in the paint. Just, you know, but yeah, this one goes hard in the paint. I think we could make that one of those sayings we say in this pack, P-A-C, possibly a cult. That is the Discord name. A little tongue-in-cheek reference to Sleep Token fans, but it's also our name, possibly a cult. The pack. We go hard in the paint. Let's keep going. Rebecca. Now I get what we're talking about here. This has a message. So noise, I didn't know what we were going at, but you look what clearly was prescription drugs. Now we have obviously some like waste right there, and then the phone's holding up the, you know, social media. So the noise. This actually goes along with, remember we had Archie's song on here the other day, and he was talking about the noise. We had an actual artist come on, and we played their song while they were in the chat with us, and his song was a very similar message. This, the noise of the world, and so that's what we're getting into right now, which is a cool topic. I love it. It's ironic because we're on social media talking about it. Years ago when I did TV, one of my shows was called Off the Grid, and it was a tongue-in-cheek sort of thing because you can't be off the grid when you have 6 cameras. Right? But also just look at the message, you know, and think about it. It is good to unplug every once in a while, but I want to see how deep they go, how deep the rabbit hole goes on this one. pause there again, just making sure we're keeping up with the pauses to make sure not to violate Nightwish's, copyright, and respect them in their work. But yeah, you look at the topic here where, you have like, obviously the sexualization of women is in there, where, men can go on social media and just kind of exist, where women are expected to sexualize themselves. And so we're talking about that a little bit, which is, that's an interesting topic that you can get into when you really want to dig deep into it. It's pretty harmful what goes on social media, and the expectations that are lumped on top of women, that, oh, cool, yeah, you're on social media, so like send me the pic, it's, there's an expectation sometimes with that, and it's pretty wild. If you really want to go down that rabbit hole, it is tough. But yeah, off the grid, yeah, I've talked a little bit about my time in Iceland. I was there. I learned. I'm a survivalist, so I'm a cold weather survivalist. I'm any weather survivalist. I really hate the jungle, but I've been through 40 or 50 blizzards on purpose, and learned how to survive in those. And so when we talk about off the grid, like, yes, I could live off the grid. I did live off the grid. And that's kind of what the show was about. It was like my ability to survive off the grid and actually handle, whatever needed to happen to survive. That was one of the things that when I was doing casting calls in Hollywood, one of them actually called me. They were doing an outdoor show and they wanted me to be one of the guys that was an off the grid person. I ended up not making on that casting. I'm not 100% sure. They don't ever tell you if you don't make it, but they interview like 10 people, maybe even more. They interview a bunch of however many they're required to interview, and then they never call you back. You don't know why you didn't make it unless your agent, gets a call from them. Maybe he has another client that gets the job, and then you know what it is. But I didn't actually have an agent back then. I was looking for one, and I had friends in TV that had agents, and I kept asking them to hook me up with an agent, and I could never find one that was decent. I had managers, and they did okay in some areas, not in others, but I never had an agent, so I never knew why I didn't get a part. But I did know in some areas why I didn't get stuff. But off the grid, yeah, absolutely. So, but when we're talking about this video, look at some of the imagery that they're talking about here, that they're bringing up, and it's definitely a commentary on commercialism, sexualization, over sexualization of women. I mean, it's not just regular sexualization, it's the expectation and sexualization of women on social media. And then in my view on that is it is a woman's, if she wants to do that on her own, that is fine. It's all up to her what she wants to do when it comes to that. But it's the expectation that it is that we lump on them, that you must do that to be accepted here, is the problem I have. If they want to do regular life on there, cool. That's them. If they want to do that and that's part of what they do, then that is on them too. It's your choice whether or not you're part of that with them or not. I don't really have an opinion on what you do with your life necessarily, and that's kind of the whole thing. And then the pharmaceuticals, that's really big with me. If you have read my book, you'll know that I do not love medicine at all, to the point I haven't spoken about it much, but I'm an epileptic, and one of the things I don't do is they've given me medicine before, and it has been quite wild what comes about with some of that medicine, and I just prefer to be without a lot of those things. I believe your body at some point becomes a porch cat. The more medicine you take, the more things you put into your body eventually becomes a porch cat, and it becomes dependent on that milk on the porch or that food on the porch, and it stops doing its own job. A cat should be a hunter. A cat should be able to go get its own food, but if you put food on the porch, eventually it becomes dependent on that and maybe loses its instincts over time. And there is some instances where obviously medicine does help. There is some things where it's just beyond what the body can handle, and I understand that. But in some of the small, like if I have a headache, I don't go take medicine to mask the pain, because that just masks it. The headache's still there for a reason, probably because I'm dehydrated. I didn't have water. Go drink water. Change your socks. Better pause right there. I'm gonna scoot back. So there's a lot of imagery going on here. What I love is how every time something is going on, somebody's taking a selfie in front of it, and that's real. And you even saw what looked like a religious thing going on, and then it seemed like there was an awakening, right? Like there was somebody was sitting in a church and they were like, what? And then they got beat up for it. Very common. If you ever listen to some of the stuff that Dr. David Robertson and I talk about in our podcast with Auxesis, you'll see that we both have he has a different background than mine. Dr. David Robertson comes from a wild background. When he was young, his father was murdered, and he talks about that story extensively. But there was also a story that near that time where he got kicked out of a church. He got kicked out of a church for questioning, and he was, you have to go back in our Auxesis podcast, but basically he was questioning not anything terrible. He wasn't questioning God or anything like that. And we're not going to get into a religious debate here, because we don't do that. We don't do religion and politics in here. But Dr. David Robertson was questioning something, and he was kicked out. It was his mentor actually kicked him out, told his mom to never have him come back because of the questioning. And so when I saw that part of the video, it reminded me about Dr. David Robertson. And that has happened to me to an extent too. I exist in a very weird space in between atheists and religious people, where I'm trying to marry the differences. I often find myself in a better, in conversation, speaking with atheists is much more beneficial to me sometimes. And so when I can appreciate that when I watch somebody getting, kicked out of a church, because that's essentially how I've felt over the years when I've tried to say, well, hey, I see what you're saying, but what about this? And it goes over pretty poorly in those settings. Whereas with an atheist, if an atheist sits down with me, often they're geared up and they're guarded. Well, like, what about this? And I'm like, oh yeah, I agree with you on that. And then it breaks down the wall. We're able to have a educated conversation where but that's kind of what I got when I saw that part. It's an interesting Interesting topic. I didn't get into it much when we did the greatest show on earth with Nightwish not too long ago. Just because there's no reason on this channel to get too deep in the weeds on that. We talk about music, but when an artist brings up a topic like that, it is good to provide commentary and say, you know, hey, you will see that even when you have a chance to talk to either in a Q&A, which actually we're doing one at the end of this show, a Q&A, or if you read my book, or if you ask questions in the chat, there's always a time for me to listen. I use active listening like it is probably, if you've seen me type, active listening is more fluent my language than English, because I struggle with typing, I struggle with speaking sometimes, but active listening I don't struggle with, and I will always listen to somebody. There will be something in there that I find that I'd like to dig into and do contrastive inquiry and do critical reflection with. So watching somebody get kicked out of a church has a special place in my heart, because I believe that is how we should be. Even if you are a religious person, didn't Jesus get kicked out of a lot of churches? Beautiful video. I love the sentiment. I love the message. We do get distracted, you know, by what's going on in our world. You know, we get very caught up in all the appearances of what we do, and it's none of us are immune to it necessarily. None of us are sitting here acting like we can't claim that we don't get caught up in it. We all do. I do. I mean, I'm doing a YouTube rock show. I don't come on here with, you know, wearing what I wore when I woke up in the morning. I get dressed. I do the show. Man, if I really didn't care what people thought about me, I would just wear what I had on when I woke up. But I don't. So to a degree, I do care what people think about me. And a lot of people will say, I don't care what people think about me. I'm like, well, the statement alone, you know, is a reply to something that was given to you, and you're replying. If you really didn't care, you wouldn't even reply. So let's break it down to that degree. We all care in some way, and it's very hard, and we do get caught up in this social media thing because it, you know, there is a dopamine that triggers when you get liked. There's a dopamine that triggers when y'all hop on my live, when y'all like my post, you know, when it gets views. There's a dopamine. I feel like I have a good way of dealing with it, and where I don't become addicted to it, and I offset it and create my balance. But it's very difficult. You know, a lot of people don't have some of the practices I have, and so they can fall into it. We see it in media, and I call it the bug. A lot of us that work around people who get caught up in things, we call it the bug. You can see when somebody gets the bug, and it's you know, I've been viral many times. I probably have 200 million social media views. If you scroll back through some of my videos, not on YouTube because this is the new YouTube channel. Well, I mean, it sat dormant for years, but there's an older channel. Well, shoot, even just on my Facebook, you can scroll back and see videos with like 10 million views and 7 million views. But I deleted some too, just for like, you know, 7 million views. I didn't like the video though. And or I just quit posting. Like, people were like, wow, you could like make a lot of money doing that. I was like, yeah, I probably could. And just deleted it because I didn't feel like being that person then. But there's a lot of pressure, and there's dopamine that can come in with that can really affect your soul and turn you into a different person. And I remember years ago, after I got done doing TV, I thought I would never be in TV or media ever again. I remember somebody asked me about it, and they were like, hey, they had seen I just went and worked a regular job. I just went and got a regular job, and they're like, oh, I saw you they were at a store, and the store played a commercial I was in. And they were like, "Oh, I saw you. You're the guy that I saw on that commercial." And I was like, "Yeah." And they were like, "That's really cool." And I was like, "Yeah, if you like your your soul being stolen from you." I mean, that's how it felt. And you know, it's very tough when I see a video like that. Not tough. It's not tough. I love seeing a video like that. I love that Nightwish put that message out there, because it's so easy for us to fall into that trap. It's so easy for you to even look at me and look at my show and be like, "Oh wow, you know, this thing is taken off. You know, I can't wait to see where it goes." Like, oh sure, it might take off. It might, you know. One of the things but one of the things I tell to the mods is they make this fun. And when I ask you to thank the mods, I mean it from, deep down in my heart, because if this wasn't fun, I wouldn't do it. Because if it wasn't fun, it'd be still in my soul. And that's why a lot of the stuff is automated on production, because I want to have fun. I want to listen to music and have a good time with y'all. And the mods do a lot of work getting the songs ready. And if they did not make this fun, I wouldn't do it. Because then it would be like the old days when it was, basically like just turn the camera on and let y'all just, suck the life out of me for 2 hours. But y'all don't. Y'all are fun. The mods are fun. Y'all have genuine conversations in the chat, in the comments. It's a beautiful community that we're building, and it makes it worthwhile to show up. But definitely don't get lost in what this message was saying. It is so easy to fall into the trap of making sure you care what people think of you. And it doesn't mean it's wrong to think that, because I care. Right now, I care what you think about me to some degree. I'm not immune to it. I do care. And but just don't make that your whole identity. Don't make it your whole identity. I'll talk about identity a lot and attachments a lot, and that just comes from the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path and all that stuff that I talk about quite a bit. But don't make this whole thing your identity. The whole name Chili, the nickname Chili, that was given to me in the Marine Corps as a joke. My friend called me Chili one time because it was my dad's nickname, and it's a shortened version of my last name. The only reason I have that nickname was when I was doing my TV show. It was called Off the Grid, and the network wanted me to put my name on it. So instead of putting my full Aaron Childress name, I said just use a nickname. So they called it Chili Off the Grid, and Chili's kind of stuck. But if I don't watch what I do, Chili becomes an identity, and it becomes an attachment, and it becomes something that I can't get out of unless I work for it. So I have to be very careful. When I shut these cameras off, the mods and I have a conversation later, but there's a break. And in that break, I go and I do my meditation. I go do my stuff, and I go reset my balance to make sure that nothing like a barnacle of identity didn't stick with me. And this video shows a little bit about the trappings of that. Beautiful video. We haven't really got to do a lot of Nightwish stuff like that. I know that my commentary went very, very long. I realize that. I apologize for that. But sometimes we get a video where we get to get into some commentary, and I'm really appreciative of Nightwish for giving us that opportunity to talk.